smart in different ways. So every student in my class is smart, but sometimes I have to change my ways in teaching, the way I teach or the way I try to present the information. And this makes us go forward or move forward to Howard Gardner, which is the fourth slide. He is a Harvard graduate school. He is a graduate school of education. He used to work there. And he is a professor of cognition and education, of thinking and education. And he also co-directed or worked as a co-director for a project called Zero. And the project is this is the following slide. The fourth slide, the next slide. Okay, so this makes us understand or try to move forward to the ideas of multiple intelligence, which was written by Howard Gardner. And Howard Gardner is a great professor. He is a graduate of the Harvard University, and he used to work there. He was also a professor in the University of Hobbs, and he was concerned about cognition and education, thinking and education. He is also a co-director of a project called Zero, and this project is a very good project. Why is it a very good project? Because it was on the idea that no student will be left alone, that we will work with all students. And this makes us move to the slide which Isra is put on board, which is what is intelligence. According to Howard, it is the ability to solve problems or create products that are valued within one or more culture setting. So this means that the intelligence in Egypt, the Egyptian student may have different intelligences than the American student. He may be more hyper, he may be more active, and he is different from the student who is in India. So we have to put in mind, even if we are applying the theory of multiple intelligences, that culture play a definite role. And it's also a biopsychological potential. This means that the psychology of the student, and if he's coming and he had a problem at home, this means he wouldn't be open to learning. So we should put in mind whether the day was a good day, whether he came and was active, whether he had a good time with his parents before he came or not. So all of this affect the way he accepts the information, and we should be interested in put in mind on the idea that culture play a role, the way he thinks and the way he learns play a role, and even his culture emotional background play a role, and the emotional background differs from one day to another. So as a teacher, we should put that in mind, and accordingly we should deal with the students, and this will help us explain better and help the info reach their minds. So this makes us move to the the next slide. So what are the next slide, please? No, the previous one. No, previous. Went back, go back. So what are the other questions? We have other questions. Forward, move forward to extra slides. You are moving backward.
Okay, forward.
No worry.
All right.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
So
that's one. The next one.
The next one. So it's not how smart you are, it's how you are smart. So what are the 8 intelligences? One of them, the next one, is the verbal or linguistics. So some students are very good at speaking and they have verbal or linguistics abilities. Other, they don't know how to speak, but they are logical. They have to they are very good at math, but not good at expressing their ideas. So these students, I should help them try to find the words when they are logical, but they cannot speak up. So I should try to help them find the words. These are like the students who ask me while they are writing writing paragraph, uh, Miss, how can I write this word? Miss, I don't know how to write to express this idea. So these students are not that bad, but they are very logical, so they don't have the vocabulary to express themselves. And then we have those who are very clever at the visual or the spatial. And we meet these students when we are going to a special place, and you ask them how to go to this place. So they give you the landmarks related to the place. So these are visual learners. Visual learners grasp ideas through pictures and photos. So as a teacher, I should include infographics. Infographic is like a photo that summarizes the lesson. From time to time, I should do this in order to help the visual or spatial learners. And then we have intrapersonal. Intrapersonal are students who like to work in groups, and they don't understand except if they communicate with people of the same age, not with elders. So their relation with me as a teacher would be okay, but wouldn't be as effective as their relations with the people in their class. And then we have intrapersonal, those who like to work in groups. And then we have naturalistic, those who like to work in the environment. So we sometimes have to go out of the class and explain in the playground, because the playground has trees and things like that and greenery. So the students will be inspired if we went out, even if we are speaking about a hard topic like physics, but still they will they will grasp the information easily, and other students will be engaged also, because it's like it's like a change of the pattern. They change the routine. Instead of staying all the year long inside the class, once or twice a month, go out and explain in the garden. And while explaining in the garden, you could read a novel in the garden. You could explain one of the Newton law there. So why? Because the naturalistic students will grasp the information very quickly, and those who are not naturalistic will like it, because it changes the way things go in the class. It's not autonomous. Then we have the musical and the rhythmic. The musical and the rhythmic, you could minimize the ideas in small words. I was once taking a course, and it was speaking about observing teachers, and the instructor, our Dr. Magid Habashi, give us a very interesting word, and he told us that kiss your teachers. And we didn't understand. We thought that we are going to kiss our teachers, but in reality, it was not that kissing. It's actually keep it simple and short. So the word kiss stands for keep it simple and short. So these small words will stick to the student mind. Just like you remember them. You remember when you tell the students that the vowels, in order to remember the vowels, remember the Alexandrian word ayu. So they will never forget that A-I-E-O-U is the vowels. So things like that stick to the mind, even with everybody, even those who are not musical or rhythmic. So we have from time to time to find words or songs that make the ideas stick to the student's mind. And lastly, the bodily and kinesthetic students, and those who like to move around the class. They cannot stay on the benches for a long time. So you could do it every 1 hour. You could ask the student to stretch for 2 seconds, make them exchange the chairs, in order to make them interested. And it's also very helpful for those who even are not kinesthetic, but they will like it because they will feel it's exchange, and maybe the walking around will make their muscles work, and once their muscle work, their brain will work. We move forward to the next slide. So as we said, all of these previous reasons give Gardner the idea or the work that we have not only 8 intelligences, but we actually have 9, because as people we could have more than one, but one dominant over the other. And he said that that the intelligence, many more are to be identified on the future by other scientists. And he said the time will tell. There are other paths to children and adult learners that teachers could work on in order inside the classroom right now. And then we're going to explain each one of them thoroughly. So the next slide will speak about the intrapersonal. The next slide, please. So the first type is the intrapersonal, people who are like me, who are always affected by their feelings and their values and ideas. You feel that they are introverts. You feel that they are closed, not open to speaking. But actually, they are reserved. They don't interact with people easily. Quite intuitive. Intuitive means that they are clever, but they don't like to stay in groups a lot. They work with groups, but most of the time they like to sit solo at the back of the class. Maybe they are very clever, but they don't like to stay in front rows or to stay beside anybody. I always actually when I take a course or something like that, I always go to the back seat and I put my things in order to be free. But actually I work in groups and things like that, but I like to have my own space. So this is one kind of people, and they may be very clever, and they may be they like to work in groups, but most of the time they try to work, they like individuality. They like to be left alone in order to be free and not follow the group mechanics. But once they are in a group, they follow the group mechanics. So we have to be as teacher, we should be very aware of the intrapersonal and don't push them to work in groups all the time. We have to understand that this is part of their personality, that sometimes they like to work solo in order to be free from the group work dynamics. Okay. But still, at some other times, they have to work in groups because they have to learn that this is the real life. Sometimes you have to work solo, and other times you have to work in groups. Then we move to the second type, which is slide 11, which is self-smart. Self-smart are independent students. They are realistic, and they know what they want. They like to work alone rather than work with others, and they learn from failures and successes, and they have high self-esteem. These type of students, the best type of assessment is self-assessment. So giving rubrics to students like these is really efficient because it makes them understand the level which is required from them. And once they get this level, they follow the chart or they follow the rubric. Their work is much more better because they like to do it solo. They don't like they are independent. They don't like to wait for the feedback from the teacher or wait for the feedback from their colleagues. So this kind of students should be given rubrics, even if I don't give rubrics to other students, but these kind of students who are self-smart should be given rubrics. Then the second type is the intrapersonal. Intrapersonal means the people who like to work in groups. They like to interact with others. And as we are a group of younger, supposedly the SIG is for the young learners, so I use the word children. So these children are people oriented. They love people. They are outgoing. They can make friends easily. They like to work cooperatively in groups or with a partner. So the best way to make them learn is to make them work in groups or in pairs. They have been identified as talkative. So when you see a talkative student, don't dislike the activity of his being talkative, but make use of it by making him work in a group, because when he works in a group, he will be one of the best teachers for the groups, because he will explain, he will be very curious to teach them and make sure that everybody understand, make sure that everybody is doing the project to the best of his ability or her ability. And they are very much concerned about being loved by the group. They are sociable and love everybody in the group. Okay, any questions for these two types? So let's move forward to the following type, which is people smart, and they are people smart. They enjoy, as I said, the interpersonal. We could call them people smart because they enjoy socializing. They act as leaders. They give advice, and they are street smart. Yani whenever you have an errand, the group have an errand, so they will do the errand. They are actually very active socially. They belong to clubs, committees, and organizations, and group work and group dynamic is very helpful for them. Then we move to the visual or spatial. The next slide, please. So the visual or spatial, they learn visually, and by organizing things spatially, they like to see what you are talking about in order to understand. They enjoy charts, graphs, maps, tables, illustrations, arts, puzzles, costumes, and anything that catch the eye. So this kind, or the visual or the spatial, the best way to double check that they understood is to make them draw charts. So at the end of the class, you could put a chart next to the door, and before they leave, ask them to write something to double check that they understood. And you will notice that they don't leave the class. They will wait for their colleagues until they finish writing and read what they have written, because they feel that they will understand better if they see the info written on paper with different colors by different points of view. So this is one way to teach them and to double check their understanding. Another point is making infographics. So you could take all the info and put it on Canva and ask for creating an infographic, and this would be really helpful, and send it on the group, or the WhatsApp group for the class if you have a WhatsApp group, or send it on the Microsoft Team group if you have a Microsoft Team. And this infographic will stick to their mind, and the info will always stick to their mind because they like visual or spatial ideas. This is why we call them picture smart, which is the next slide, which tell us, next slide again. Okay, this is why we call the visual or spatial learners picture smart, because the pictures make them grasp the idea. It's like they get the mental picture. So maps, charts, diagrams are very helpful. And why it is helpful? Because they are always daydreaming. So if you put the info on a photo or a picture, they will grasp it and will stick to their mind. And also, if you have a presentation, it would be really helpful. And a very good way to know these students, because if you are judging your students who are in class, you see them always doodling with doodling on paper, يعني using the ink or pencil or colors while you are explaining. So this means that they are not interested in what you say, they are interested in what they see as a photo or a picture or an infographic. Then the verbal or linguistics, those are children or students, those are children or students who like stories, who like teachers to speak a lot, who like reading, speaking, listening. Why do they like reading, speaking, and listening and writing? Because they use the language. They feel that this language is a weapon that support them to learn and at the same time support them in expressing themselves. So these students are very are into listening to stories or reading stories, watching videos that tell a story, because it grabs their attention. Okay, so this is why we call them word smart. They are clever at using the words. The next slide. This is why we call the verbal or linguistic student word smart, because they tell tales, they like to tell stories, they love jokes, and they love giving headlines of stories. Their memory is very good, and they enjoy word games, and they have linguistic range, which is very good for other in comparison to other students. And they know how to express themselves because they are very good at expressing their self. Just remember the idea that the word is a weapon in their hand, or the language is a weapon, because it helps them reflect their idea and get ideas. So this is why they are called word smart. Then the following type of student, it is the mathematical or logical type of students who like, these are students who like numbers and reasoning. So if you don't have number, you have reason, يعني, so for example, if someone get burned, you said he got burned because the boiled water fell on his hand. So if you give him a reason for why things happen, they are very into the lesson. They get into the lesson. And for example, if I'm teaching a lesson about entrepreneurship in the US, and this is a very big topic, and it's supposedly not related to Egypt. So when they tell us, and we always hear that question, why we are learning about the US? So you tell them we're learning about the US because it's the material is written about the US. But once we read it, we will compare it to Egypt. And for example, if we are speaking about an American artist, who blend music, so I tell them, actually, we had a musician called Chen Chen who used to blend the Chinese music with American music. So when I heard the question, why are we learning about Chen Chen, who is from China? So I tell them, you learned about Chen Chen, but you are going to write about an Egyptian artist who blend music. So they got the word Muhammad Munir, and he even has the artists who come from Germany and play the oud with him, and he blends different kind, and a lot of us, he blends different kind. This is why he's called a pop artist, because his music is played in Europe. So when you speak about logic, the students get or reason, the student get into the classroom and into the material, and they love the material, even if it's not related to their idea. It is not an abstract. It's not an abstract idea. It becomes something which is could be applicable, and once it's applicable, it reaches their minds and heart. And once it reaches their mind and heart, they get into the topic. So this is why we call this type of logical or mathematical students. The next slide, we call them number smart, because they use their mind, they use their mentality, they enjoy games, and they enjoy logic, and they always use higher order thinking skills. They always ask, why are we learning this? Why is this important? Why is global warming is important? Learning about global warming important. So when you tell them that we have Egypt, Egypt weather is changing because of the global warming, they think, oh, this is why we have different kind of climate and temperatures. And when you say yes, they get into the lesson. The next type is the bodily or kinesthetic students who likes to learn through activity and games and movement and hands-on tasks. These students are often labeled overly active, and they like to move around throughout the class type. If my students are not the children, you will see that the bodily or the kinesthetic would while you are writing on the board would move, while you are not moving would send papers to other students. They are using their hands, their legs, things like that. You should make use of this if you have a bodily or kinesthetic by assigning groups, and from time to time moving the groups from one side to another side. This will make this will energize the classroom, number one, and number two, it will make the bodily or the kinesthetic students interested in what you are teaching. And this is why we call them body smart. And we see that this is the following slide. This is why we call them body smart, because they use their body a lot. They like sports, they like moving. You see them tapping their legs up and down, tapping their pen, touching different objects, enjoy if they are youngsters, they enjoy running and jumping, and they express themselves dramatically. This means that sometimes they use loud voice while they are speaking, because they use all their nerves in order to express themselves. And they enjoy using their hands and fingers a lot. And then we move to the musical or the rhythmic. The musical or the rhythmic are children or adults who learn through songs or patterns or rhythm. Just remember the two examples I gave. Kiss, keep it simple and short. This is a piece of advice one of our trainers gave to us, but it stuck to our mind because he used rhythm. The word ayu, which is for the vowels. So these things are very much interesting to some students, and it make them grasp the info quickly, and the info will never get from their mind because it's stuck in the form of a rhythm. And this is why we call them music smart, because they even sometimes create rhythms or songs in order to summarize what they have learned. And the next type of students is the naturalistic. These are children or adults who love to work outdoors, and they don't like the classroom a lot. So from time to time, take them to field trips in which you could teach them information and ideas, or even discuss the lesson outside the parameters of the walls of the classroom. And I'll give you 3 examples that happened to me. We were learning, and maybe you passed through the same experience. We were learning about Muhammad Ali, and in order to Muhammad Ali, King Muhammad Ali. So in order to grasp the information, they took us for a field trip to the citadel, and all the information stuck to our mind while we were moving around the mosque, the citadel, and all what happened and what he did stuck to our mind. This was one example that happened to me while I was a youngster. It happened to me while I was having a training in the US. They were trying to explain the idea of task-based learning. and they took us to a factory where we learned how they used to print material, and we printed. I took a piece of cloth and I printed material on this piece of cloth. So it stuck to me. All the procedures of how to print cloth stuck to my mind. It happened to me also one time when I was taking a course on how to create a blog. And I remember our trainer make us open up a blog on Google. And I never forget how to create a blog because I did it myself. Because what it was, we went to the lab and then we opened the computers, and all the steps stuck to my mind because we did it in a field trip. So these things are really interesting, and make the information stick to the student mind, even if you are teaching a lesson about on math or whatever, but doing it for some time to time in the outer space make them interested, and make the student who are naturalistic like the lesson, and people who are not naturalists, they will love it because it's against the routine of the classroom. And they are called nature smile. Why they are nature smile? Because they like to study or hold the classroom outside, and they like subjects that have projects, because the projects will be practiced and created by speaking to people from outside the classroom. They are aware of what's happening inside the university or inside the school, because they are aware of the surroundings. They are sensitive to plants and animals. They love them. They know the weather, and they identify things through species and categories. Then we move to the next type, which existentialist students, or students who like to learn the context. What is the idea of the context? The context means the culture of the area, the big picture. They like the big picture. If you give them minute ideas without giving them the big picture, they don't understand. For example, if I'm teaching computer science students business English, they would have the question, why I'm learning business English. So from the very first classroom, you should tell the students that you are taking business English because afterwards you will be asked to design websites for clients who should understand their vocabulary and understand what they really want from understanding their vocabulary. Maybe you will open your own business, so you have to understand the vocabulary related to certain ideas. So involving the students in the big picture, which is the reason why they are learning, make them more interested. And the type of students who are interested in the context will master and get the utmost of the information you are giving. This is why we call them spiritually smart. Why they are spiritually smart? Because they always think about what is the reason for that and this. They are philosophical. They know the reason for everything. And if we are studying physics, they understand why is physics important for humankind. If they are studying English, they understand that English is very good because it will help them express themselves at the first place in any country, and at the same time interact with people all over the world. So they are very philosophical. Okay, and these are all our types. But there are some things that you have to put in mind, which is slide 28, that you have to adapt a lesson for anybody, that you have to speak aloud and say the word aloud for those who are word smart, that you have to show, if you are a teacher for youngsters, you have to show a set of objects for those who are number smart, and you have to draw for those who like pictures. So, and move around, make students move around for those who are body smart. So whenever you are teaching a lesson, you have to put all these types of students in your mind, because once you put this, all the different types of your students in your mind, you will become a better teachers, and the students will learn more, grasp the info more, and become better teachers. Then the last slide. Remember that sometimes you have to divide the words into syllables. If you are teaching to young students, use rhythms and smart words to the old people, to the adult students. Divide the student into more than one groups for those who like to work in groups, and always make sure that there is individual work for those who like to work solo or work alone as teachers. And there are ideas for lesson planning in the last slide, which is lesson planning ideas. And here is the link. Can you please take a copy of it? Yes, take a copy of it and put it in the chat box. Yeah.
Of course.
And that's it.
Yes.
So you have lesson planning ideas in this link.
Okay.
So go for it. Anybody can go for these lesson planning ideas. And that's it. I'm ready for questions, and sorry for the...
Thank you for such a wonderful and informative presentation today. I really have a big insight about lots of important things. So thank you.
You're welcome. I hope people liked it as you like it.
Yeah, I would like to send to you here the survey link. This is very, very important. Please, yes, get into this link and fill it to get here some resources related to multiple intelligences and learning styles.
Thank you, Ms. Isra, for helping me.
Thank you. Actually, I've learned lots of things, and don't forget to kiss your teachers.